Howdy, folks. It's your friend Max Mogren reporting live for you from beautiful Alpine, Wyoming. This is Wake Up Wyoming, a special edition for 9/11, the 16th anniversary of 9/11. I can't say enough about this topic. It is crucial that we take advantage of this opportunity to raise more awareness about the truth surrounding 9/11. Mad props, big props, much respect to Matthew Martino, one of our editors here at Wake Up News, who just went live on the topic. It'd be pretty cool if we could keep the live streams going all day long with people sharing their insights and awareness about 9/11, 9/11 truth. According to a 2016 Live Science poll, Live Science survey, 54.3% of Americans question the official government story on 9/11, as they should, because it's pretty blatantly false, right? We've got organizations like Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, Academics for 9/11 Truth, so many people who have been ringing the alarm on this issue for so long, and I think it's important that we keep doing it. You know, it's easy to get discouraged. It's easy to say, oh, nothing's going to change. Why bother beating the dead horse of 9/11? Well, one reason to continue talking about 9/11 is because it does justice to the 2,876 people, Americans, who died on that day, and to the millions of people who have died or been displaced by the endless war on terror that 9/11 was used to perpetuate, right? 9/11, the greatest, the most blatant, at least, false flag attack in American history, and it's up to all of us to spread the truth about that. If you go onto the mainstream news today, like I did, do a Google News search for September 11, you'll find 57 million news stories on the topic that have accumulated since that date. 57 million. And if you look at the most recent ones, stuff coming out today, we see, Trump, who on 9/11 was interviewed live on TV and called it a controlled demolition. Now he's towing the line. During his campaigning, he got a lot of people on board by stating that he was going to get to the bottom of 9/11 and show how the Saudis were involved in that. But now that he's in office, now that he's towing the line a little more, Trump's comments today, I just watched his live video from the Pentagon, from the White House, and he's just towing the line, saying the same old thing. So it's important to note Trump's not going to do anything about this. It's up to us. The mainstream media, it's funny, in this line of work within the independent media, we're told that we need to have reputable sources, right? We're told, oh, you got to cite the Washington Post or the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal to add some credibility to your statements. But all these news outlets have never effectively addressed what really happened on 9/11. And to this day, 16 years later, they're still spreading the official bullshit about the situation, right? So, like the mainstream media, how do they perpetuate these lies? It's through repetition. They continuously tell us the same tired old narrative that defies logic, that defies reason, and because of repetition, people believe it. So all of us in the independent media, all of you who join us here on Wake Up News and help get the message out, it's crucial that we increase our efforts, especially about issues like 9/11, and especially on the anniversary of 9/11, when the corporate, the government spin machine is in high gear, encouraging people to drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak, right? And today, I'm going to share my own story of waking up to the truth of 9/11, because I think it's important to note that, once you've been deep into the truth movement, once you've gone down the rabbit hole, it's easy to get frustrated with people who haven't made that journey yet. It's very easy to think, oh, everybody knows that. Why bother sharing that information? It's common knowledge, and people who haven't woken up to it yet never will wake up to it yet. Well, I disagree with that, and my own life is a tribute to that. I'd encourage all of you to share your own stories about waking up to deeper truths, more difficult truths to stomach, painful realizations, experiencing cognitive dissonance in your own life as you become more aware of what's really going on in the world. And for me, learning the truth about 9/11 opened a door in my mind that made me receptive to so many other painful and difficult truths. So I'm going to share my own story of 9/11 right now. I'm sure anybody who was alive at the time, anybody who wasn't a toddler or a young child, remembers where they were on September 11th, 2001. And I certainly do. I was a college student. I was a junior at a Catholic all-male liberal arts college in Minnesota, St. John's University in Collegeville, Minnesota. I was a good student, straight A student, all-American boy, 3-season athlete. And at the same time, I already knew that there were some fundamental problems with our civilization. I didn't really know how to describe it. I didn't know how to put it into words. I didn't really understand completely, but I had this deep-seated dread that something was wrong. But I really didn't even, given all of that, it still took me another 8 years before I finally researched 9/11 and became receptive to the notion that it was a false flag attack perpetuated by our own government and allies of the government. And on the day of 9/11, I remember it vividly because I was walking downstairs going to head to class, and all the residence halls, like I said, I was an RA. I was a pretty good RA. I didn't really bust anybody for anything, but I was a residence assistant. And all the residence halls at the university I went to had a priest or a monk living in the building. And as I was walking downstairs, the priest in my building said, "Max, get in here. You got to see this." And I walked into his room, his apartment, right at the moment when the second plane hit the towers. Okay? And my initial reaction was, shock. But the first thought that came into my mind, being the naive 20-year-old that I was, this is a horrible thing, but maybe it will get our leaders here in the United States to reconsider their aggressive foreign policy all over the world. Like, how naive is that? I thought that 9/11 would actually deter the government from the endless wars, the economic sanctions, bullying people all over the world. I had no idea that it would be used to perpetuate an endless war on terror, which is in fact a war of terror perpetuated against all of us, right? Terror, terrorism defined as the rule through intimidation and fear or outright violence. So perpetuated against all of us and in fact the rest of the world. I had no idea. And so it's important to note, people are naive. It takes a long time to become aware of these things. And 16 years after 9/11, look, some kids were born on 9/11. They're 16 years old now. It's their 16th birthday. And it's up to us to spread the message to them and wake them up. Like I said, I didn't become aware of 9/11, of what really happened, until 2009, 8 years later. Even though I was hypercritical of the government, hypercritical of the media, I studied communication, philosophy, pre-med in school. And one of the first things we learned in our communication 101, 201, 301 classes was the mainstream media is biased, right? We learned that. But at the same time, I couldn't wrap my head around the notion that the U.S. government would attack its own people. Now I see otherwise. But 2009, when I finally started to wake up to this stuff, I was living in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and I'd just gotten back from a couple of years of vagabonding around the world. And I got back, I got 2 jobs because I needed to have 2 jobs to make some money. One of my jobs, I was tending bar at the Silver Dollar Bar in the Word Hotel. The other job, I was a bellman at the Rustic Inn, a hotel in town. And that summer of 2009, this fundamentalist, super conservative, ultra right-wing Christian named Foster Friess, who was, during the Bush administration, the #1 donor to the Republican Party, the guy's a billionaire, was hosting his 70th birthday party in Jackson Hole. And at the same time, that was in the height of the Great Recession, so to speak. So all these people were suffering. And as a bellman, some of his guests were staying at the hotel I worked at. And I found it extremely frustrating that these billionaires and multimillionaire conservatives, Dan Quayle was in the house, Tucker Carlson from Fox News was in the house. These people seemed to be just fine. They didn't seem to be struggling at all. And even here in Jackson Hole, the wealthiest county per capita in North America, the average person was just squeaking by, struggling to make ends meet. And it made me take a deeper look at the financial system, the economic system. And I was so upset by this situation with Foster Friess that one night after work, I went home and I had a blog. It's called Oil Free Fun. I went home and wrote a blog post about my frustrations. And I mentioned that there was this 70-year-old billionaire's birthday party in Jackson Hole, right? I didn't mention him by name. I didn't, I just expressed my opinion without mentioning his name. But somehow they had Google News Alert sign up or whatever, and the search terms 70-year-old birthday party Jackson Hole led one of his assistants to find my blog. Okay. Next thing I knew, I had this war being waged against me where they got me fired from my bellman job. They tried to get me fired from my bartending job. They threatened to sue me for libel, and they demanded that I take down this blog post. Well, what did I do? I didn't buckle under. Instead, I wrote 6 more blog posts about the whole situation, exposing what had happened. And on the night of his birthday, it was like a week-long celebration for Foster Friess's birthday, the greatest single donor to the Republican Party during the Bush administration. On the night of his 70th birthday party, the big extravaganza where they were throwing money around like it was paper, which it is, I was tending bar. And they actually had me under surveillance. This young couple who I was tending bar, so I was working. This young couple sat down, and I carded them. And they both had U.S. military IDs. And they sat there and nursed one drink each for 4 hours throughout this entire birthday party, just to make sure that I wasn't planning to go blow the thing up or light off stink bombs or something. This is a true story. And I got to talking with them, and it became pretty clear through our conversations that I was being monitored as a potential threat to Foster Friess's 70th birthday party. Needless to say, this whole situation was a big mindfuck for me. And in the course of that whole situation, my mind started to open. And a friend sent me a link to a video of Michael C. Rupert talking about 9/11, like Truth and Lies in 9/11 by Michael C. Rupert. And next thing you knew, I was going down the rabbit hole, hardcore. So it's important to note that me, I'm pretty aware. I've spent the last 8 years of my life really searching for the truth. But it took a big push to get me to take that next step into being more aware and more receptive to the notion that 9/11 was an inside job. That, I hadn't even considered that. Even though I was hypercritical of the media, super, lack of trust in the government, still that notion was so far above and beyond what I was willing to accept. So that's my story. I hope you all will share your stories too. I see some of you have. Sorry, I was talking. People are all chiming in here. This is great to see. Matt Kinney saying U.S. government has a history of attacking itself to gain the people's buy-in to go to war. There's big money in war. Absolutely. That's why we raise awareness like this. Your comments are so important. Dennis Paul Siebold chiming in. I was working in a body shop. Many years later, I started putting 2 and 2 together and realized it was an inside job, right? I think so many of us, it's almost hard to admit how naive we once were. It's almost hard to admit that we didn't know everything. None of us sprung from the womb aware of these things, right? Generally, children are trusting. Generally, children are loving, and they come into the world completely helpless. They have to rely on adults. They have to rely on the authority figures in their life. And we're all born inherently trusting. It takes a while. It takes some personal effort, and it takes being exposed to the truth, or contradictory information to basic human assumptions, in order to cross that bridge. And on days like today, it's extremely important that we remember that just because we disagree with somebody, or just because somebody disagrees with us, doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. They're just not there yet. They're just not ready to embrace the truth. They're just not ready to take a good critical look at things. So even if you just wake up one person, we got 110 people watching this video right now. If all of you made an effort to try to wake up one friend, one close friend, one family member, or share it on your wall, send out an email to everybody you know, reminding them or letting them know for the first time that we really should look into the official story of 9/11. And 16 years later, it's more pertinent than ever, right? People chiming in, lots of great comments. I really appreciate all of you sharing your stories, where you were on 9/11, how you woke up to 9/11. Because, that's the whole point of this video, that we are not innately distrusting, that we're not crazy. It's important to acknowledge that. It's important to build this sense of community with one another and share our stories so other people can understand what it's like to go through that. I remember the days, weeks, months, and even years after becoming aware of what really happened on 9/11, and how difficult that was for me to process. How I fundamentally altered my worldview, put me into this tailspin of depression and cognitive dissonance, and made it extremely, made life hard. You lose hope, when you become aware of the notion that, wow, our government killed 3,000 American citizens to justify this endless war. That's a hard pill to swallow. But once you do swallow it, you realize, well, if they're capable of doing that, what else are they capable of, right? Why are so many Americans so unhealthy? Why are so many people suffering from autism, Alzheimer's disease? Why are pesticides that are banned all over the world allowed in the United States? Why is the vaccine schedule increased from just a few shots to 50 shots, whatever it is, 43 shots before a child hits the age of 6, right? All these things need to be considered. And 9/11 truth, becoming aware of that, because it's such a blatant thing, because it's so obviously a false flag attack, because the official story is so blatantly and so blatantly false, so easily disproven, it opens the door for a lot of people to see what else is going on in the world. And on the same topic, similar topic of false flag attacks or staged events, or spectacles and disasters perpetuated against the American people, we see these things happening today with Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Irma, with catastrophic flooding all over Southeast Asia, India, Nepal, in the Himalaya, that the same shadowy forces, the same military-industrial complex that perpetuated 9/11 also has the capability to use the weather as a weapon. Now, along with that, they had the capability to prevent extreme weather. So it's important, 9/11 opens the door to so many other issues. I can't stress it enough. So thank you all for tuning in. In the links of this article, I put together a little, it's over there, probably won't show up the same on your screen, but I put together a little compendium, a little archive of 9/11 truth videos today. So check them out if you want to. Share them with your friends. We got Loose Change 9/11. We got some architects and engineers for 9/11 truth info on there. And again, I'll encourage all our editors and contributors here at Wake Up News, consider going live today. Or any of you, go live, share your story. But we've got some heavy hitters here at Wake Up News. You know, Zachary Coons could go live today. Derek Burrows from Mint Press News, the Conscious Resistance Network, Anti-Media. He's got admin access to Wake Up News. He could go live and share his story. Adam Kokash has got admin privileges here at Wake Up News. He could go live. So reach out to these people and encourage them to share their stories of waking up to 9/11, waking up to the more painful truths in our civilization. And thank you all for tuning in. I'm signing off. I'm going to go outside and try to have some fun. Again, you know, heart's heavy today. I take this situation very, very seriously. My mentor, the guy I apprenticed under, Michael C. Rupert, was one of the first researchers to come out and question the official story on 9/11. And I saw what holding on to that awareness for so long in the face of the collective consciousness did to him. And we're lucky these days compared to what it was like before social media, before live streaming, before we had these strong, resilient communities of like-minded individuals helping each other out, supporting one another, sharing each other's information. People who were aware were kind of, you know, Mike's old website was From the Wilderness, and they were kind of like cast out, ostracized from society because of their opinions, regardless of, you know, even if their opinions were true, even if they were easily factually verifiable, like questioning the official story on 9/11 is, they didn't have these social networks like we have. And it's important that we take advantage of them, or not take advantage of them, but put them to use, right? You can reach such a wide audience if you get a little crafty with this. So whatever your message is, even if you disagree with me, even if you think 9/11 happened exactly like the government said it did, you can get your voice out there. You can make your voice heard, just like I am right now. And I encourage all of you to do that. The more people that speak up, the more we can counter the mainstream narrative on this topic. Okay? Again, you go online, you search a Google News search, all the mainstream media today is spreading the official lie. Or actually, they're not even spreading it, they're just overlooking it entirely. Another funny thing, 99 out of 100 mainstream news sources, you can't comment on their posts anymore, right? If the New York Times, if the Washington Post let people comment on their stories like they used to, there would be a whole flood of 9/11 truth at the bottom of all their articles, at the bottom of all their videos. But they're hiding from that because they're scared. Everything they say is so easily disproven, and it's up to us to do that. But rather than engage them on their own platforms, I think it's better that we replace them. So everything you can do to get the message out from Wake Up News or similar news agencies like Mint Press News, the Anti-Media, there's so many out there, do it. And we really appreciate it. You know, we're all working on this together. So thank you all for tuning in. Much love and respect to all of you. Heartfelt condolences to all those who have been affected by 9/11, whether directly or family and friends of people who died, and the millions, literally millions of people who have died or been displaced throughout the course of the endless war on terror, which is actually a war of terror, trying to police the whole planet through fear and intimidation. It's time for that to stop. That's why we're all here. We take it very seriously, and we're on it. So thank you all for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe. It's your boy Max Mogren signing off. Check out wakeupnews.net. We're getting that website rolling. If you have any suggestions, If you want to contribute content, hit us up with a private message here on Facebook, or hit me up directly. I'm online, Max Mogren. You can find me very easy, MAXMOGREN. Not hiding from anything, out in the open, trying to spread the truth. Y'all take care. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. Stay aware. Stay optimistic. We got this. One love. Peace.